today we'll be comparing the 18-55 Canon kit lens versus the Sigma 18-35 Canon professional grade lens. First thing you can see is the build quality. The kit lens, as you would expect, are built very cheaply and they don't cost much, they're plasticky, as on the other hand the Sigma lens is built like a tank, it's bulletproof. The 18-55 kit lens only weighs like 250 grams and the Sigma lens weighs over 800 grams, which makes it so heavy that you might need a strap for your photography or else your arms are just gonna fall off. 18-55 kit lens has more focal range by 20mm because it zooms in all the way to 55 and the Sigma only zooms in to 35, which sometimes can be a bummer, but you definitely can live with only 35mm. You can see that the zooming with the kit lens is not the smoothest you've seen in your life, but the Sigma looks really good when zooming in. It's really smooth and the zooming is internal, which means that the zoom won't change any parameters, any dimensions when you zoom in. The aperture on the kit lens opens up to 3.5, which is not very good for low light, and when you zoom into 55mm it opens up to 5.6, which is really not good for low light. So this is only good when you're outside shooting and there's a lot of light. The Sigma opens up to f1.8, which is really good for low light, and the aperture stays consistent throughout the entire focal range, which means that it's 1.8 at 35mm, in 24, 18, whatever. Let's see how these two work in low light and how they shoot landscape and portraits. Okay, first we're gonna look at portrait shots. In this photo you can see that on the right there's the Sigma lens and it's a lot blurrier because at 35mm the aperture stays at 1.8, but the kit lens aperture closes down to 4.5, which is not really a good aperture if you want a blurry background. But even at an aperture 4.5, there is definitely some blurriness in the background. But if the kit lens is all you can afford, then I mean, sure, go for it. But you can't really compare these to each other because it's obvious that the Sigma wins here. And that wider aperture also helps if you need to shoot fast moving subjects, but then it's harder to catch focus for the camera. This next is a landscape shot and it was taken during a blue hour, so it's kind of a low light. And here you can really see how the fast aperture can help with the shutter speed. In the right there's again the Sigma lens, which was shot at 2/50th of a second. And with the kit lens I had to go to just 1/50th, which is kind of a limit when you're hand holding it. But this was shot on a tripod because, you know, to match those photos. But in the low light test is where it gets really interesting. Here you can see a traffic light and some road signs. You can see that the ISO of the Sigma lens is at just 2500 because of the aperture. Again, that's a big advantage of this lens. And then the kit lens, I had to boost it all the way to 12,800, which is a lot more, and it shows on the results pretty strongly. When you zoom into the yellow sign, you can see that there's not much detail in the kit lens. It's really terrible, it's so noisy, and there's also some chromatic aberration around the lights. And there was also another sign in the background which you can read, but right here on the left you cannot read the letters because it's so noisy. And then I also shot a couple videos in different focal lengths because the kit lens aperture is not consistent and it closes down when you zoom in. In these videos I used ISO 6400 for the Sigma lens, and for the kit lens I had to boost the ISO over to 16,000, which is really a lot. Let's take a look. Zoomed out in 18mm, as you would expect, there's a lot more noise at ISO 16,000 and the footage is not usable at all. And when you zoom into the one road sign, which is right there on the left, you can see how noisy it is in the kit lens. And then when you zoom into 35mm, the aperture closes down to 4.5, which means the image becomes underexposed, so it's even darker and there's so much noise, it just looks too bad. And when you zoom in all the way to 55, which you cannot on Sigma, the picture is just dark, it's underexposed, and it's noisy. You cannot really do anything with quality like that. But as I say, this is an extreme case and it's a demonstration, so you wouldn't be shooting in conditions like this. And now let's compare the focus noise test on these two. To be honest, I'm very surprised how silent the STM motor is. You really couldn't hear it in the test. On the other hand, you can hear the Sigma lens, especially when you're using the internal microphone, but I don't recommend doing that because it's just crap. Even when you're alone in the room and there's no noise, don't do it. Please don't record with internal microphone, okay? Other than that, I'm pretty happy with the results, but I would be glad if the focusing was faster, but it was probably because the lighting wasn't the best, which I admit. It works good when you're shooting and when there's someone else and not you in front of the lens. It works great. Some people report that the Sigma lens sometimes misfocuses, which I don't know, maybe it happened to me, but I just didn't notice it. But overall, the focus works very well on both of these lenses. There's also some additional information you might want to know. Mind that both of these lenses are only for crop sensors, which means you won't fit them on full frame cameras like 5D Mark IV or EOS R. And also mind that the Sigma lens doesn't have any image stabilization, but the weight of the lens is gonna account for that because it's really heavy, so you can't shake it as much. The kit lens has image stabilization built in, and you also might need an ND filter that's like sunglasses for your DSLR, and you use it when it's too bright outside. Like for example, now I can really overexpose the sky, but when I turn this ring I can underexpose myself and expose for the sky, which looks sometimes really cool. Okay, but let's not forget about the one and probably the most important thing of the lens, and that's the price. The price tag of these two lenses is significantly different, and there are 9 versions of the kit lens. 5 versions of this lens were already discontinued, so you can get them from like a second hand and they're gonna be cheaper. The one I recommend is the 18-55 IS-STM because it has that silent focusing, which really you couldn't hear in the test, and the price is kind of down there. So this, if you want to buy new, the IS-STM version costs 130 euros over here. You can find the kit lens on eBay for as low as 40 bucks, and this lens costs around 800 euros, like 780 or something, which, let's be honest, it's a big difference. I recommend this lens if you're brand new to photography and you want to start out, but if you want some higher end lens which has way better build quality than this, has better zooming capabilities, it's smoother, it has less range, it's heavier, and the price is way up there, but I still think it pays off. I've been really happy with the results I'm getting from this lens. Alright, thanks everyone for watching, hope you like this, drop a like if you did, please subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!